So this example is our beloved macaroni and cheese that we all grew up on. This label's a little bit more complicated. We want to look at several things before we actually dive into the rules. First of all, I want you to notice that there are 3 servings per container. When you have macaroni and cheese, how much do you eat? Yeah, I eat the whole box. 1 box apiece for everybody in the family. So just keep that in mind as we do these calculations. We also want to point out that there's 2 columns here. There's a column for the dry materials in the box as they're packaged, and a column for eating them as prepared according to the instructions. Very rarely does anybody eat the dried cheese and the uncooked macaroni. You might chew on them a little bit, but generally not. So we want to focus on the prepared column. Step 1, yep, we want to look at the fats. And look at the total calories, 400. Now remember, if you eat that whole box, you're getting 1,200 calories, and if you're eating 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day, that's quite a wallop in one meal. And we see that there are 170 calories from fat. So that 170 divided by 400 times 100% is 42.5% of the calories coming from fat. And that's predominantly from the cheese, the butter, and the milk that you've added. That's well beyond the 20%. And then if we look at the unhealthy fats, we see saturated fat, 1.5 grams, cholesterol, 10 milligrams, and this isn't surprising because you get saturated fat and cholesterol from animal products. That's from the dairy. Step 2, we want to look at the sodium. And we see 570 milligrams of sodium to those 400 calories, and that's a fair bit beyond that 1-to-1 ratio. Plus, if you're going to eat that whole box by yourself, that's your whole sodium load for the day. Step 3, let's look at those ingredients. The first ingredient is enriched macaroni product, meaning highly processed. They strip out the fiber, they strip out the vitamins, and then they turn around and give you the vitamins back as chemicals. And then they add cheese sauce and milk fat and milk protein and sodium here and salt here. And then the yellow dye. There's a lot of things on that label that you'd really do better without. Step 4. Yes, we're going to look at the sugars. So 7 grams of sugar, remember 4 calories per gram, that gives us 28 calories from sugar. 28 calories divided by 400 total calories times 100%, that's 7%. So that's a little bit above our 5% limit. Step 5, yes, the carbohydrate fiber ratio. And we do this math, 48 grams of carbohydrate, 1 gram of fiber, 48. Way beyond that 5. So this food, because it is so concentrated in calories, you want to limit that to no more than a quarter of the plate if you eat it at all. I know that makes us sad because that's all something we really enjoyed growing up with. Well, let's look at this whole grain pasta without all the cheese and additives to it, just to see if there might be a better choice. And then we add to this whole grain pasta maybe a cashew cream sauce. It won't be macaroni and cheese, but it's very satisfying. Or maybe you want to make pasta primavera. Let's look at this label together. Step 1, we want to look at the calories from fat. So we have 15 calories from fat divided by 200 total calories times 100%. That's 9%. So that's under that 20% by quite a bit. We see that there are no saturated fats, trans fats, or cholesterol. Step 2, we want to look at the sodium. 10 milligrams of sodium, that's well under that 1-to-1 ratio with the 200 calories. Step 3, we want to look at the ingredients. Now notice the front of the box says whole grain, and to be categorized as whole grain, you have to have at least 51% whole grain. So the first ingredient indeed is whole grain durum wheat flour, but then they have additional semolina and durum wheat flour, but it's processed. It doesn't say whole grain. And then they add some fiber back in. Definitely better than the macaroni and cheese. Step 4, we want to look at the sugar calories. 2 grams of sugar times 4 calories is 8. 8 divided by the 200 total calories times 100% gives us 4% of the calories coming from sugar. That's under that 5%. And we didn't see any sugar listed on the ingredients, so that's intrinsic sugar. That's the sugar that's in the grain itself. Step 5, we want to look at that carbohydrate fiber ratio. So it's 41 grams divided by 6, 6.8, which is still above 5 because it's only 51% whole grain, but it's much better than that 48 from the macaroni and cheese. So this would still be limited to that quarter plate, and then you want to smother it, fill the rest of that plate with those healthy fruits and vegetables to make a nice pasta primavera. So if you're going to eat a pasta dish, that whole grain pasta is definitely an improvement over the macaroni and cheese. But is there yet a better choice? So this box is completely whole grain. You look at the ingredients, whole grain durum wheat flour, and when we look at the fiber ratio, indeed 39 divided by 7 is much closer to 5. It's not below 5 because this is still processed to a degree, minimally processed compared to the macaroni and cheese, but yet it's more concentrated in calories, so you still want to limit that a bit to that quarter plate. So let's take a look at the next label reading exercise before we go ahead.